So we have a little bit of cleanup here at the end of the move where the German, Mark's already taken his RPs. I will take my one, which is in Koblenz here that you can see. Um, I'll flip that army back over, and then I will draw up my cards. This will be the second turn where we can do uh, reinforcements. So let me show you my hand and what I drew up here. I think you can see that. The first two cards I already had. So now I get Race to the Sea. Once I play that, I can move into those beach hexes. Falkenhayn, which can be played either last turn or this turn, only after Moltke is played. And Mark played that, but not as an event. Played it for ops. So that would cancel the effect. So I kind of want to play that because it gets me two status points, which are valuable. Severe weather, which is good. Entrench, always a good card. And Reichstag Truths, which also gives me one. Um, because one of the things I'm doing here, let me move the map so that you can see it. um, my combined war status. I want to get to limited war before I have to draw up again. So this is the turn I definitely want to get to limited war. So hopefully I'll be able to play Falkenhayn and Reichstag Truce during this turn. So that'll be interesting to see. I might be able to play Oberost. That would give me two because I'm currently here at two, and I have to get to four. I only have four cards remaining, so I'm definitely. Oh no, I'm sorry. I have zero cards remaining. Mark has four cards remaining. I have zero. So I definitely want before I draw again, reshuffle my piles. I want to be into the limited war. So, so that's kind of where we're at. Let's see. So I'm going to advance to turn two, and we're there. I would say, all in all, um, what we had go on in the Western Front was pretty amazing. So here we are, September of 1914, and the Germans have punched a pretty big bulge into the Western Front. They're doing the Sheaflin Plan, um, but we haven't punched through. We haven't encircled anybody, but we're in pretty good shape. Um, Hanging on there in what later will become the West Wall in World War II, 20 years later. And we're doing okay on the Eastern Front. The Austria-Hungary has taken some losses, and we've done nothing against the Serbs. So all in all, I'm okay. So for my first card play, CP Action Round One, I'm going to place the entrenched marker, or play the entrenched card, and I'm going to put the entrenched marker, as you can see, there in Sedan. Try and have that be an anchor, because what I've noticed in previous plays of Paths of Glory, very tough to crack the nut of Verdun. In fact, my strategy is more to try and surround it and punch through Chateau Thierry, which I've already taken, and either go to Madun and then Nevers and over to Dijon, which would cut him off. And actually, all I got to do is Madun and Nevers, and I think that would cut them off, as opposed to pounding my head against Verdun, which is what happened historically. Um, so we'll see how that goes. But emplaced my trench there at Sedan. I think that's a conservative move. So now we'll go back.
And here we are in turn two, or September of 1914. And the Germans have surprised me a little bit by entrenching in Sedan. I thought they would keep up the pressure on the weakened Central Power forces, but they've entrenched right here, which suggests that Potentially they are settling in for the long haul on the Western Front and potentially going to switch their attention to the Eastern Front, where the Russians have been doing their best to apply pressure to the Austro-Hungarians down in the south, but have so far not distracted the Germans at all. Looking quickly at my cards this time around, as I'd mentioned at the end of the last episode, they're a lot better than they were. My first draw had a lot of twos, but these are all threes and fours, 1, 2 at the end at the right here. So lots of action points, but also key, lots of reinforcements cards. So I think I'm going to bolster the rather weak Western Front, take advantage of the breathing room I've been given, and playing French reinforcement card and reinforcing the 10th Army arrives in Paris. So that will be the Allied turn for this card play, and it's back to Doug.
So here we go for my action round. And I am playing the card Oberust, which will give me. I'll try and get the card up here on screen if I can. I can't get it up there, but it includes 1 point on the general records track. So it will move my combined war status to just one shy of limited war. And as everybody, I think I showed everybody before, when I then play that later this turn with Reichstag truce, I'll get to limited war because I have 0 cards remaining. So the next time I shuffle my deck, I do want to bring in limited war. There we go. Back to Mark.
Okay, and it's action round two, and the Germans have surprised me again by not pushing the advantage in the Western Front. They played Oberst. I'm going to take advantage of the pause in the German offensive, and I've got British reinforcements here. The First Army, First Corps is going to be played, bringing the First Army onto the map in London. And there we have the British First Army arriving in London and ready to move to the continent. And it is now back to Doug. Okay, the Allied powers are back again. The Germans did play a very fast action round three. All they did was they played this card you can see down in the bottom right. Race to the sea. Central power units may now end their movement in Ostend, Calais, and Amiens. So that was just for the event, and no troops actually moved. And so, if you look at the cards I have, I am going to play. Just let me bring this up. So you can see my cards here, British reinforcements. I've already played one British reinforcements card this turn for the event, so I cannot play this one, the second British reinforcements card for the event. So I will play it for the 4 action points. And returning to the main scene, here is the card play. We're going to. I do have to. I do a little bit indecisive here in my movement, but this is what we're going to do. The British are going to move in to France from Great Britain. In Grenoble, the corps, the French corps down in the south here is going to try and plug the gap. And we're going to, over on the Eastern Front, we're going to keep up the pressure with an attack on Stanislaus, flanking attack for these two armies. So we do the moves first. It's always move first and then combat. So the French Grenoble Corps is on the move and goes into Belfort to stop any attempt to delay any attempt by the Germans to just simply move onto the fort of Belfort, place it under siege, but they would eliminate the French entrenchments there. So that stops that, and then the First Army moves to Calais and stops there. And plugs the gap, and we're joining the depleted core, all the surviving members of the original British expeditionary force. Okay, moving over to the eastern front, the Russian 8th Army was going to attack the depleted Austro-Hungarian 2nd Army in Munkacs. It is attacking into a mountainous region. You can see this little icon top right there. So if we go look at the charts, the mountain offensive fire is moved one column left. So the Russian army attacking with a 3 will be actually rolling on the 2 column. The 3 factors will be reduced to the 2. So let's see what they do. The main scene, let's see what the dice roll is. The dice roll is a 4. So switching back to the loss factor table here. Here we go. A 4 on a 2 column, a 4 is rolled, so that is 2 loss factors inflicted. 2 loss factors inflicted. So that will deplete. That will deplete the or flip the 2nd Army, replacing it with a core. And then, but before that happens, the Austro-Hungarians will fight back, and they roll a 2. So they have a strength of 1. Fighting on the army table, they rolled a 2. A quick look at what that brings, what results that yields. They rolled a 2, so it is only 1 loss. It's 1 loss which has no effect on the attacking Russians, so it's 2 versus 1. So the Austro-Hungarian army is depleted, eliminated and replaced with a core. And it looks like I have in the log taken an extra loss out of the core. That's incorrect because I only inflicted 2 losses on the Austro-Hungarians. So I'll fix that at the end of this log. And then they have to retreat 1. And and the 8th Army will advance. So they will actually retreat. And there were only 1, and they would not have been flipped. So that would be the situation for the Austro-Hungarian Corps, and they could, of course, retreat to there or to there. So that's the end of that attack, and then we'll move on to the next attack. The 3rd Army in Tarnopol here will be attacking the 2 corps in Stanislaus. So the Russians are attacking on the army fire table with 3 factors firing, and the dice roll is a 3. So moving back to the charts, factors firing is a 3, dice roll is a 3. So 2 losses have been inflicted. So here the Austro-Hungarian player, Doug, will have a choice of does he want to eliminate 1 core entirely, absorbing 2 losses, or does he want to deplete both cores? It'll be his call, of course. Fighting on the Austro-Hungarians striking back on the core table with a strength of 2, they cannot do any damage. The only reason why we would roll is to see if they had to retreat 1 or 2 hexes, and so cannot do any damage. So I didn't even roll. So that was an interesting move on my part, and I eliminated 1 core. And then I retreated the Austro-Hungarians 1-2. But of course, on a dice roll of so that was technically incorrect. There's a dice roll of going back to the tables here. So what really should have happened there is the core fire table. There were two factors firing. So on a roll by the Austro-Hungarians of 4, 5, or 6, they would have inflicted 1 loss on the Russians. The Russians inflicted 2 losses, if you recall. So if the Austro-Hungarians roll a 4, 5, or 6, then the difference between the 2 is only 1, and so they will only have to retreat 1 hex. So let's roll the dice and see. Here is an Austro-Hungarian dice roll, and it is a 4. So going back to the main scene then, instead of having to retreat 2 spaces, this corps only needs to retreat 1. And so this corps here only needs to retreat 1, so we'll put it back there. And we'll have to update the log in the logs going forward. And of course, that retreat path was open to Doug as well as the mix of whether he wished to deplete both his corps or eliminate one. So that is, and the Russians have decided not to advance. The reason why they had not advanced into here is if they do, it will create a hole in the line. The Fourth Army could, for example, just go over here and even here and cut off the supply lines of the advancing Eighth Army here. The Eighth Army is already a little bit exposed. So the Fourth Army could, if Doug was so, if he wanted to race this corps in here and here and cut off the Eighth Army, and then I would have to make sure I re-establish supply lines before the end of the turn to avoid the Eighth Army being eliminated. So let's see what Doug does there with further pressure on the Austro-Hungarian Empire and trying to relieve the pressure over on the Western Front.
So I've skipped ahead a little bit in my recordings because we just at the beginning of turn two, September of 1914, the French played a reinforcement. I played Oberus to move my turn track or my numbers to limited war a little bit. And then the Brits played British reinforcements. So now we're to the point um, CP action four, I guess. So I'm not sure if that's right, but either way, I'm going to play Von Francois for 2 ops. I'll quickly show you what cards I have in my hand. Um, I've still got Reichstag Truce, which I'm planning to play to get to limited war. He still has not played Moltke, so I'm not sure why. So not a whole lot there in my hand. Um, so we'll play that for 2 ops and we're going to move the German army in Koblenz there. We're going to move it up a little closer to the front. And we're also going to move the Flint army in Brussels. So we'll move to Antwerp. So on the next turn, we will, or at the end of the turn, we'll siege and try and take control of that in our blank. But we also move into Ostend. So that's one of those beach hexes that got freed up in a little bit of earlier card play, I believe. So that'll move the VP track to 13. And that is it.
Okay, this is action round 4, and still no German offensive or Austro-Hungarian reaction on the Eastern Front. And so I was a little bit concerned about the Eighth Army being hung out to dry there. So I'm going to play a trench card for 3 ops for the movement, and I'm going to plug the gap there. So with these 3 units here activated to move, the 8th Army, 3rd Army, and the Russian Corps up in Lutsk, and the 3rd Army is on the move, and then the Corps is on the move down there, and then that is my turn of just tidying up the Russian lines there. The Eighth Army, in case you didn't notice it, it retreated back here. The Corps moved over here, and then the Third Army moved into the line here. So that's that for the Russian turn, and now on to action round 5.
So in turn two, action five, I play Reichstag Truce, which then gives me one additional point that I'm able to move into limited war, which will be a big deal when I draw up next and I can include the limited war deck. Also, I'd note I somehow skipped over my play of Race to the Sea, which is what enabled me to move into Ostend over here as part of my Scheifele plan. So that's where we are now.
Okay, and on to action round 5, and I'm playing a Russian reinforcements card. I have actually two in my hand, and I can only play one per turn for reinforcements. So I'm playing this first one for the ops, and we're going to do an assault on the eastern front. These three armies here, the Fifth Army, the Third Army, and the Eighth Army will be attacking the Fourth Army. So if we have the Eighth Army set up as the pinning or assaulting force, then these two armies here can add a +2 DRM to a flanking attack roll, where I need greater than 3. So here is the flanking attack roll. It is a 4, which gives me +2 DRM is a 6, so the flanking attack is successful, so the Russians will attack first. So will be attacking with 9 on the army table. Let's have a quick look at the army table. So 9 factors firing is on the 9 to 11 column. The there is no terrain effect for the attacking a fort, but the fort will give the defending Austro-Hungarians an extra 3 firing factors when they shoot back. So 9, and the dice roll for the Russians is a 1. Okay, so they inflict 3 losses on the Austro-Hungarians, which is sufficient to flip the um, the Austro-Hungarian defenders, the Fourth Army. They will flip, and they will then fire back with a 1+3 for the force 4 on the army attack table, and they roll a 2. So both sides shooting rather poorly there. And we've flipped back to the charts, and 3 plus 1 is a 4. They rolled a 2, so they have inflicted 2 loss factors, which is sufficient to flip one of the attacking armies. Okay, and as you're going to see in a minute, I'm not going to take a loss on the Fifth Army. I'm going to, this army here is not going to be flipped. I'm going to flip the Third Army instead. The Russians inflicted 3 losses overall on the Austro-Hungarians. The Austro-Hungarians reply back with 2, so the delta is 1, so the Austro-Hungarian Fourth Army has to retreat 1 space. So there's the flipping of the Fifth and Third Army. The Austro-Hungarian army will retreat, and the Fifth Army will advance into the barely pronounceable Przemysl and place the fortress there under siege. So that's it for the action round 5 of the Allies, and on to action round 6, the last action round of September 1914.
So here we are near the end of turn 2, and I will play for my last action round Landwehr for the event. This is nice because it gives me 2 extra RPs to immediately flip reduced strength German units to their full strength side. Um, so what I'm going to do is bring to full strength down here in Strasbourg. Um, right there, and as well the German army up in Antwerp. Um, we'll do both of those.
Okay, and wrapping up turn 2, which is September of 1914. You can see down the bottom left there that the Germans, the Central Power that is, have achieved, they've moved their war status marker down here into limited war status. The Allies are lagging, and they're not going to make it this turn regardless of any cards I play. So I'm going to play the Rape of Belgium card, not for the event, which would move the Allied war status to 3, but I'm going to play that for the replacement points, which allows me to gets me 2 British replacement points, 2 French replacement points, and 3 Russian replacement points. So the French are in dire need of being reinforced, and so the French First Army is returned to Paris for 2 points, and that is all the French replacement points. Unfortunately, the British do not have any. The BEF Corps up in Calais cannot be, being that black dot indicates that it cannot be reinforced. So those veterans cannot be replaced. But down over in the bottom of the map there, yes, on the Middle East inset map here in Port Said, you can see there is a depleted British Corps. So we will fix that with spending one resource point, and in Basra over in the bit further over here, we will fix that depleted core, bring it up to full strength, and spend 2 British resource points there. And then over in the Russian front, we do have the depleted Third Army right here, and so we will flip the Third Army, spending 2 RPs, and the third Russian RP will not be used because we don't have any other depleted units we can spend it on. And so that wraps up the British the the Triple Entente's turn, and we will then that also wraps up this episode. I do feel that slightly relieved that the Germans did let off the pressure. They were very close to a major breakthrough on the Western Front, and I'm quite pleased that they seem to focus more on advancing their war track card so they can get access down here. They have because they've got so far along on the general records track here, their war status has moved to limited war, so they will have access next turn to the limited war deck, whereas the Allies are lagging over down here and Allied war status, and I will need to do something about that next turn. But I think, as I said, I'm fairly relieved that I have managed to plug the gaps here on the Western Front, and with the situation seems to be pretty stable there. And if I were Doug, I'd be a little bit worried about what's going on the Eastern Front over here. He has to react to that fairly soon, I think. So that wraps up episode 2, and we will be, after a small gap, getting back to you and updating the channel with episode 3 as we once Doug gets back from his well-earned vacation.